Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story. OP did manage to get a termination for new entitled coworker. The second story. Entitled mother is upset that she has been caught breaking the law multiple times. The third story. When incompetence leads to a team exodus. The first story is, new NA tried to gaslight my coworkers and I finally pushed back tonight. Hello everyone, your friendly 2 nights a week NA here with a not so happy tale. Our full-time NA recently quit, so our GM hired a new employee who we will call Crazy B, or CB for short. So CB has been in training since Monday. The person who's been filling as NA is a second shift employee and doesn't know how to do the NA paperwork. She would just run the audit, but the actual paperwork would be filled out by management the next morning. So the second shift employee showed CB how to set up breakfast and how to create reservations, check in and check out guests, etc. Disputed by CB, but more on that later. While the responsibility of training CB on filling out the paperwork was left to me. I was scheduled to work with her for 3 nights. My plan was to have her observe me doing all the NA processes on Friday, and then have her perform the processes on her own on Saturday and Sunday. Friday went by relatively smoothly. I give her a general overview of everything she'll be responsible for as NA. Learned quickly that CB was definitely a talker, and had a tendency to overshare. Grading, sure, but hey, as long as she got her job done, who cares? Saturday comes around. I usually get in a few minutes early to print out worksheets and set up the dry items of breakfast to get them out of the way. Tonight, however, I arrive at 11 p.m. on the dot, since CB has indicated she wanted to do everything on her own from start to finish. I arrive and first off, it's a madhouse. The lobby is full to bursting with parents and kids, and the 2 second shift FDAs are being run ragged with the food and drink orders. We're at 99% occupancy, and CB is nowhere to be found. 20 minutes pass and CB still has not made an appearance. I start the NA duties while trying to give some relief to the 2 exhausted FDAs. Finally, around 11:50, CB saunters in. She explains that she was moving and that she overslept because she doesn't have an alarm clock. One of the FDAs suggests that she calls next time she'll be late, as they had already informed our GM that she had not arrived on time, and the GM was not happy. CB then states she doesn't have a phone. The 2 FDAs leave, and I then begin to guide CB on the NA procedures that I haven't already done because she was late. I start with something simple, checking to see that all folios from the previous day have been closed. As I give her instructions on how to perform the procedure, including telling where to click in our room management software, CB constantly makes comments like the following. CB, why do we have to do all this? At other hotel brand, we never had to do all this. The night marches on with CB constantly complaining about our processes. We run the audit and finally get to doing the paperwork. CB constantly huffs and puffs and states that the paperwork is overwhelming. After she finishes her paperwork, I ask to start putting breakfast out, something she would have learned with the temp NA, while I check her work. This is where the real fun begins. After finishing checking her work, I go back to the kitchen to help her set up breakfast. As I'm trying to get some scrambled eggs ready, she then starts to berate me and my coworker who had trained her previous nights. CB, why did you just send me off to make breakfast by myself? No one has showed where anything is. I don't know how anything is set up. You and coworker are good at talking processes, but you haven't let me do anything by myself. I'm very anxious and stressed about being by myself because you haven't shown me anything. Your training has been extremely choppy. I feel so sorry that GM has such poor trainers for employees. Never mind that I was letting her perform the processes while I just stood behind her and guided her. I really didn't appreciate how she was bad-mouthing myself and my coworker, but I kept my cool and let her vent. I then asked her, well, obviously my style of training is not working for you. Tell me, how would you like to be trained? CB answers, I don't know, I have to finish this coffee. What happened to you didn't know how to do anything? Anyway, later in the night, CB apologizes and says she was just stressed about her move and being on her own. In between stories about how she was unfairly evicted by her landlord for reporting the complex to the health department, to her being falsely arrested for child abuse, I try to explain how to enter the numbers into our accounting system. Instead, CB decides that she wants to go sweep the lobby because presentation is everything. Sunday morning, GM texts me and asks how CB is doing. I state what she had stated in the kitchen. I don't give all details to avoid seeming petty, but I do state that CB said she felt overwhelmed by the paperwork and that she was anxious about being by herself. I stated that she might benefit from a few more days of training. GM then edits the already posted schedule, so CB can train with our front desk manager who used to do audit. Fast forward to Sunday night. I arrive at 11 p.m. on the dot. Again and again, CB has not arrived. The temp NA is working second shift, and I start to tell her how CB chewed me out the night before. The temp NA then tells me that she had indeed let CB do things by herself. In fact, Wednesday through Friday morning, she let CB set up breakfast by herself. Video footage from those mornings confirmed what she said. CB saunters in at around 11:10 p.m. I start to guide her through the NA procedures when all of a sudden she starts berating me for having told the GM she needed more training. I say that I was only relaying the comments that she gave me the night before. She states that I'm a liar and that she never said she was overwhelmed or anxious about being on her own, and that I was just trying to embarrass her with the GM. I tell her I don't appreciate her attitude and her accusations, and tell her she needs to leave. CB then states, "We are equal employees. You are not management. You do not have the authority to send me home for my job. Get GM on the phone right now." I happily pull out my cell phone and call the GM on her cell phone. I tell the GM that I do not feel comfortable working with CB anymore, and I would like her to go home. GM asks if she can talk to CB. I try to hand my phone to her, but CB rejects it. CB, "No, tell GM to call the front desk. I don't feel comfortable touching your phone." I relay the message to GM. GM calls the front desk, and CB starts to lie and say how she was only trying to relay how she wished she had been consulted about the extra training, and how I was being aggressive. She again reiterates to GM how neither I nor the temp ever let her do anything hands-on. Easily proven false by video footage. From the sounds of it, the GM seems to have called her out on her tardiness, because then she had the gall to say, I was not late. I arrived at 11:10 tonight. Your shift begins at 11 p.m., dumb. Anyway, GM tells CB to go home, and that she would just do the rest of her training with the FD manager. GM then texts me and apologizes for what occurred, and said that I wouldn't have to deal with her anymore. Apparently, GM was already peeved with her for being late on Saturday night, so while she's letting her stay on for now, she seems to be on thin ice. GM is relieving me this morning, and I plan to tell her the full details of what CB said and did on Saturday night. In addition, the temp NA plans to have a conversation with the GM about the lies she said about her. Update. It's now 1 week later, and I'm sad to report that CB is still on the payroll. Even though she's apparently been late every night this week, and has antagonized almost every other hotel employee, it appears that she's still hanging on. It is very disappointing, but I cannot say that I'm surprised considering what a hard time hotels have hiring daytime employees, much less nighttime ones. On the plus side, it looks like the front desk manager was able to get her to shut up long enough to learn how to do the paperwork, and close out the daily accounting books. She was left on her own starting Thursday and seems to be doing fine. Even so, the rest of the front desk employees and I are making sure to watch our backs with her, as she has shown a propensity for causing trouble. One last little tidbit from the past week. Apparently, CB let slip that she used to work at a strip club. Now, she didn't state she was a stripper, mind you, but apparently did once work in some capacity at a strip club. As Dorothy Sabornak once said, yet another piece of the puzzle. If anything else comes up with her, I'll be sure to share it here. Update 2. CB was fired last night. I'm not sure what finally inspired our GM to finally send her packing. Apparently, the GM actually had to work the night audit shift, so whatever it was must have been really bad. Anyway, an employee who was originally hired to work second shift will be taking over the full-time auditor position. I've met him before, and he seems pretty cool and collected. The second story is entitled Mother Irate for Not Having Her Ticket Dismissed in Court. I've been a lurker for quite some time, and I've been enjoying most of these stories, but today I finally have one of my own. I'll introduce the cast. The child does not do anything but stand next to her mother, so there's no need to really go into detail with them. I cannot remember exactly word for word what was said, but I can remember a bit and will fill in the best I can. Entitled Mother equals EM/fair judge equals FJ. EM appears in front of the judge when her name is called, as I'm sitting around with a few others. Her gripe today is with turning right on red and not wanting to pay the $85 fine. FJ starts and reads off what she's being charged with and asks EM to explain. EM describes the incident as a swift turn, and how she slowed down to almost a full stop before proceeding after the car in front of her. This will be important later. Keep in mind that this isn't a T intersection, but more of a wider Y-shape intersection. EM then admits this isn't her first time at the courthouse for the same situation. After the video is reviewed, it is clear that EM is a liar. There was no almost stopping, and it shows her blatantly running the light. Yes, you can see a brief activation of the back brake lights, but hardly enough to consider it an almost stop. Too bad this particular city is notorious for traffic cameras and speed traps. The intersection was very safe and empty, EM claims, as if that makes a difference. And FJ immediately calls her BS. With, "You said before you made a swift turn after you almost stopped." "Yeah," EM says softly. FJ, "Is there anything else?" EM, "The video speaks for itself." EM, "I just can't be paying these tickets." FJ, You, EM, "I'm getting these $85 tickets and this isn't fair." FJ, "You've had these problems before?" EM, "Yeah, I work in and drive around in this city every day." EM then proceeds to admit to FJ about other various tickets she's received recently. Speeding in a school zone was definitely one of them, along with another red light run that was again caught by another traffic camera in the city. I just want to point out that FJ is known for being an incredibly honest, genuine, and fair person. Hence his name in the story. But after EM is done, he says, "EM, if it was even remotely close that you stopped, I'd give you a break, but there's absolutely nothing I could do. Did you and I watch the same video? Besides, by your own admission, you've gone through other lights before. You know the drill." EM shakes her head. FJ, "You've had multiple previous violations. It's $85. EM, "I'm getting the hell out of this city." FJ, "Good luck to you," he says as he smirked at her. And the last story is Revolt of the Salon. Oh, fun one. Our salon lost our manager to having a new baby and becoming a stay-at-home mom. It was sad to see her go. So our DM comes in and says he's hiring from within the salon. He's been looking at our sales, client retention, and whatnot to pick. Meanwhile, for a month or so, we had no manager. So Becky took the role on and did great. We still had paperwork and orders that needed to be done. She set up a cleaning schedule. She fixed a lot of simple issues that our old manager just didn't see issues with. Our schedule was written out for the entire month. Basically, she stepped up and put in a lot of work she didn't get paid to do. Becky also had a really bad back, was 45 and did hair for 27 years. If anyone needed a manager, it was her. Her client list had gone down a bit, but she was still very busy. Tara had worked there 6 months at this point, and Tara was not a team player. She would put your sales commission on her account accidentally. She would say things like she's paid to do hair, not clean. Not to mention she weight-shamed everyone. Skinny, fat, in between. She found hurtful things to say about everyone, but she would be loud and laugh and be goofy. So he kinda just rolled our eyes and moved on. She was 23 and had a decent client list and remained busy. But here's the thing, she wasn't busy. Her friends would come in, hang out, and whatever. Sure, she would do a wash and blow dry, but that's $20. No cutting and no coloring. When her actual clients came in, she would do their hair, and after they left, her and her friends would laugh about them. Our old manager had to tell her if her friends aren't there to get their hair done, they don't need to hang out. So DM comes in and sees all these clients and friends waiting on Tara. His dumb A thinks that Becky overstepped her role and Tara should be managing. The best part? We all looked at each other and started packing our bags. 6 people walked out. Tara crying that this isn't fair. She earned this and we're just jealous bees. We went as a group and rented spots at a different salon. The old one shut down a month later, because we take our clients with us, and washing your friend's hair doesn't keep the salon afloat. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to know when the new video comes out, and hit the like button to support the channel.